Well, good afternoon, folks. You are very welcome to Bandido Talks. I know you may be thinking, where is the Bandido? Why is he not in the studio? You've become so used to the Bandido in the studio that now when he puts himself into a different environment, you don't know what to think. But you see, the Bandido hasn't changed. It's just the environment around him. And so I thought, let's bring out the little camera out into nature. And why not do a new little series? We're going to call it Lessons in Nature. Now I know you may be saying, where is your little clip-on microphone? We don't do any of that. That's too sophisticated. The Bandido likes to keep things simple. He's going to take his little camera, his little backpack, and that's going to do the job. But you see, lessons in nature. Why come out into nature? Why do I have all of these trees around me? Well, you see, folks, when you're in the studio, and I love my little homemade studio, I think it's very useful. It does the job. But you get into a certain frame of mind. When you're inside, you're in your little studio, you've got your microphone, everything's set up. Everything's in order. And that puts you in a certain frame of mind. But then, when you think of nature, there's a certain disorder to nature. We love nature, but there is a certain disorder compared to our nice little neat houses, our nice little neat studios, everything in place. When we come out here, it's a little bit different. And it's even starting to rain. There will be people walking past me, probably thinking, what is he doing? Why is he talking into the ground? Because I have my little camera on the ground. But you see, nature is going to offer you something slightly different. Put you in a slightly different headspace, we could say. And so that's what we're going to talk about on this little episode. Lessons in nature. Let us see where our mind wanders towards. It's going to be somewhere different compared to our little studio. But we like the entropy. The disorder is going to bring new ideas. And of course, there is disorder at the moment. I mean, at the time of recording this little show, this little episode, what do we have going on in the world? We have an event going on. We have this war between Iran, the US and Israel. There's all of this chaos, all of this unpredictability. And you know, it's kind of interesting because now that the Bandido has this enormous audience online, 50 subscribers on YouTube, and a mighty 9 subscribers over on Rumble. And I know you may be thinking, with all of those subscribers, that the offers are coming in, that people want to know what the Bandido has to say, the sponsorships, all of that. And you would perhaps think, with an audience that vast, that I get lots of questions. Now, I do get some questions. And one of the questions that I have got, not on a live stream, but just people I've been talking to, a couple of people in my enormous audience have said, well, Mr. Bandido, why do you not get a better camera? Your camera on your live streams, it doesn't seem that sophisticated. Why do you not have a better camera? Well, you see, it's the same reason that I don't have a clip-on microphone here. Sure, I could get a better camera. I could get a little clip-on microphone and make myself look all sophisticated. I could do that. But you see, this little camera that's recording this little episode, Lessons in Nature, our first episode in this series, this little camera, it represents something interesting. And it's going to be the focus of this little episode here that we're doing. This camera, folks, whenever I started Bandido Talks 5 months ago, I could have said, okay, well, before I start, I need to have this in place, that in place, I need to have the plan written out, I need to have a list of things, I need to have my script for what I'm going to talk about on my live shows. I could have said to myself, before I start Bandido Talks, I need to have all of these things sorted. And here comes the real. Maybe I'll need to cover up my camera. Let's see. We don't do editing here. Let me cover up this camera. Now, where was I? Yes, our camera. And when I started Bandido Talks, I could have said that I needed to do all of this planning. I need to get all of the latest equipment, all of the latest gear, before I can start. In other words, I could have talked a good game. Yes, I could have done that. Instead, what did the Bandido do? What the Bandido did was, he took whatever equipment he had at his disposal, and he just got to work. In other words, he didn't talk about what he was going to do. He just did it. Instead of using words and telling everyone what a great show Bandido Talks is going to be, what did the Bandido do? He took action. And he took action with whatever technology he had at his disposal. And it just so happened that I had this little camcorder in the house. So that's what I used. And I know that I could get a better camera. I could have a better studio. I could buy better equipment, a better microphone. I could do up the studio, make it look all fancy. But you see, there's a lesson in this, folks. And that's what our little camera is going to teach us here. This little camera that people say, well, the quality isn't so great, you should get a better camera. But there's a lesson that this camera can teach us all. People love to talk a great game. We talk about this on the show all the time. People love to say what they are going to do. They love to show you their plan, their list of things, how great it's going to be. And how often do people actually follow through? How often do people actually live up to their own words? Not very often. And you see, what this little camera represents, it represents the opposite of procrastination. Because when we're looking to do something, when we want to start something, a lot of the times, the population can procrastinate. They find any excuse not to start. Oh, I need fancier gear. I need to get a better microphone. No, I can't start until I have a good microphone, until I have the fanciest gear, until my studio is completely done up to perfection. Only then will I start. And you see what's happening here, folks. The person is procrastinating. They are talking about what they are going to do. And the reality is, folks, nobody gives a shit if you just talk without legitimate action. It's far better to take action. Whatever gear you have at your disposal, you're better just using that gear, getting started, and then worry about all the rest later. You don't need a fancy plan. You don't need a detailed script. All you need is your phone, really, if we're talking about podcasting and doing up episodes online on live streams. And so this is the trap we don't want to fall into, folks. This procrastination trap, where we feel like we need to have all of the pieces of the puzzle at our disposal before we start to do anything. Of course you don't need to do that. You're procrastinating. You're putting it on the long finger. And your talk is cheap. And that does you no good. Because the only way you're really going to learn about the art of live streaming or podcasting or fuck knows whatever else you're going to do is by doing it, is by taking action. If you don't take action, you're not going to get any feedback. And if you have no feedback, you have no sense of direction. You slow down the speed at which you climb the learning curve. And that's what happens when you procrastinate. And so for those of you who think the Bandido's camera needs to be upgraded, maybe I will upgrade it at some stage in the distant future. But for now, this camera represents the complete opposite of procrastination. It was the thing that I had at my disposal 5 months ago to get me going, to take action. I don't need a script. I don't need a plan. I just need to take action. And then I get the feedback. And the feedback is the guiding light in the dark. That's what's going to direct you. That's how you're going to learn quicker. We all, folks, when we're doing stuff, we want to learn as efficiently as possible. We want to get up the learning curve as quickly as we can without cheating. Well, you're not going to do that by talking. You're going to achieve that by doing. And more broadly here, folks, I've already made reference to this war between the US, Israel, and Iran. Yes, there's a whole bunch of unpredictability. I understand that. But there will be a whole bunch of people who will fall into this exact same procrastination trap that I'm talking about here with respect to starting something. People will look at the world right now, and at the time of this recording, the war is still ongoing. There will be a whole bunch of people reading news articles, watching the news, and what'll happen? We talked about this with the Epstein files. People will get demoralized. What happens when you get demoralized? You do nothing. You don't take any action. And when you're not taking action, you're not getting feedback. And when you're not getting feedback, you're not learning. You're stagnant. And so more broadly, folks, when we're talking about lessons in nature, don't be procrastinating, putting things off because other things are happening around you. Sure, there's a war on. No sane person wants war. No sane person wants all of that unpredictability. But it's out of your control. It's an uncontrollable. So what's the point in getting so immersed in something that you can't control? Dedicating so much time, energy, and attention to something that you can't control. And then if you get demoralized and you feel like there's no point in doing anything, you're giving yourself an excuse to procrastinate. Because that's what people will be doing now during this period of war. People will look at this and say, oh, sure, isn't it tar? Well, what's the point? So that thing I was looking to do, there's a war on. So I won't bother doing it because the world's going to shit. I may as well not bother because everything's going to blow up around me. So I'll just be lazy and not do that thing that I was looking to do. And people put themselves into a procrastination trap because they're letting things around them get in the way of living and optimizing their own life. That's a mistake. The war is an uncontrollable. You can't do anything about it. And you must ask yourself, does it benefit me whinging, complaining, moaning, getting demoralized? Does that actually help me? Is that putting me in more advantageous circumstances? Because the last time I checked, folks, the world is still functioning. You know, here I am, out in nature, beside this little pond. Sure, I'm in Ireland. Most people in the world aren't directly affected by this conflict. Yes, if you're in the Middle East, well, you're in a bit more of a different set of circumstances. We've talked about this before on the show, folks. Physical safety. You've had a heads up that this war was coming, so you should have got your hole out of there if you were that concerned. But what's the broad lesson here? The Bandido could have procrastinated before doing Bandido talks. He could have decided, no, I need all the fancy gear. I need the clip-on microphone. I need the fancy camera. I need the fancy studio. Before I start, I need the script. I need the plan. And I could have procrastinated and spent all my days talking a good game and not taking any action. And that's why the camera has remained unchanged. It's a symbol. It's a symbol that represents something in the form of action. That camera represents action to me. And I don't want to change it. Maybe I will at some stage, but not for now. I like looking at that camera. Even though it's mediocre quality in terms of the recording, I don't care. It symbolizes the opposite of procrastination. It symbolizes action. So it doesn't matter whether you're the Bandido starting a podcast, or more broadly, if you're someone who wants to do something in life that's going to make your life better, that's going to optimize your existence, you shouldn't be letting a war that's going on in the Middle East put you into this demoralized state where you basically say, well, the world's going to shit, everything's going to blow up, so I may as well not try anymore. I may as well not bother pursuing those goals, doing those things that I wanted to do, because if everything's going to blow up, what's the point? That is you making an excuse to fucking procrastinate. I know exactly what you're doing. You are procrastinating, and you are using this war as a way for you to have a get out of jail card, so you don't have to do anything, so that you can just sit there and moan and complain about the state of affairs in the world. And who loses out? You, dipshit. You lose out. Because no one's going to come and make your life any better. That's up to you. You should be the master of your own ship. The master of your own destiny. You should be controlling the controllables. The war hasn't affected me. I'm still doing what I want to do. It hasn't affected me. I still get to live the life that I want to live. Why are you letting it affect you? Why would you do that? That makes no sense. And I think a whole bunch of you actually want to procrastinate, because it takes effort to actually pursue something that you want to do. It takes effort, time, energy, and attention. And nobody's going to invest that time, energy, and attention for you. You're going to have to do it yourself. Independent of what war or what political circumstance is happening around you. You are going to have to go about optimizing your own existence. And I'm seeing a whole bunch of people literally allow this war in the Middle East, which has no effect on your physical safety, and if you've been prepared, it shouldn't have had an effect on your financial security, because you should have been preparing for a worst case scenario. But you're letting it affect you. Why? Are you expecting someone to sort of float into your existence that's going to hand you everything that you want in this life? And I think wars, like this one in the Middle East, between the US, Israel and Iran, wars are a very convenient way for people to be lazy and to procrastinate. Because people put themselves in this state of, what's the point? I'm sure there's no point. There's no point in me doing what I want to do because the world's going to explode. I know what you're doing. You are procrastinating. You are making excuses. Don't be blaming the war in the Middle East for the reason that your life is not where you want it to be. It's nothing to do with the war in the Middle East. You are allowing the news and whatever it is you're reading on social media to put you into this demoralized state so that you have a little excuse not to put in the effort. Well, that sounds familiar. So that's the moral here that we take away from our first episode. Lessons in nature. Don't fall into the procrastination trap. And don't allow some political circumstance, some political situation in the Middle East. If you live in the UK or Ireland or some other part of the world that isn't the Middle East, you're not directly involved in this. Yet here you are, being lazy, procrastinating, and wanting to be demoralized. That's on you. Only you are going to lose out. Nothing's affecting me. I'm just fine. I'm out here in nature, having a grand old time. You have to ask yourself, am I being lazy? Am I using the war as an excuse? Am I taking action? Or am I talking a good game? What am I doing? Am I talking a good game? Or am I taking action? Only you can answer those questions. And the Bandido certainly won't be changing his camera, because that camera symbolizes action. It symbolizes being proactive and being the master of your own ship and the master of your own destiny.